Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. This is Dad. We are Incarcerated Too. My name is Daryl, and I'm joined by my lovely daughters. They'll introduce themselves.
Raquel.
Hi, I'm Jamila.
Aaliyah.
They're not camera shy, believe that. We have, this is our second podcast dealing with the issues that we have talked about on our first one, and that is in regards to my time of incarceration and how my children felt, just to recap on that, about what they went through during my time period of incarceration. And my last bit was 8 years. I have over 20-something years in the system. And I need you to understand that, first and foremost, incarceration is never physical until you get to the end. It's mental first, and then the end result is the penitentiary. There's a lot of folks out there walking around that's incarcerated. They just ain't made to the penitentiary yet. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or, they're dealing with a lot of situations and scenarios that have impacted their lives. We just lost my mother on the 15th. Bishop Dr. Winnie Hamilton, who was my best friend and mentor, Sunrise Global Ministries Incorporated. She was internationally known and birthed children spiritually throughout this nation and the world. So shout out to my mama, Winnie. We love you, baby. We're missing you. Today is actually is the viewing of her body, and tomorrow's the service. So we need you all's prayers for my family. However, we're continuing on with her legacy, and her legacy is being manifested right now as we sit at this table doing this live podcast. Dad, We're Incarcerated Too began with my oldest daughter that's sitting to the left of me. That would be Raquel, who told me emphatically that during the time period they came and visit me that, well, Dad, we're incarcerated too. And I'll kind of let her just kind of talk about what that is and what that meant. And then we'll zoom on in to the rest of the show.
It was so long ago, honestly, sometimes I be having to think back like, well, what did I'm so experienced. I said so experienced. I'm more experienced now. So what it meant to me back then, though, there was a lot of things that I felt we were missing out on, whether it was father-daughter dances or ice cream with dad at school, and those are just the physical things. There were emotional things I felt that we were missing out on too, just needing him or wanting a place to escape or wanting that unconditional love. It felt like we were burdened with his sentence as well because there were things that we couldn't get because of it. And so I think that really took a toll on me. And as I'm sitting there listening to him, I was just thinking to myself, like, well, what about us? Right. I'm bound by these chains too.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, it really took a big toll on my life at that age, especially, like I said, being so inexperienced with life. That was just anger. I didn't have a lot of other feelings to back that up besides anger. And that's just where I was at with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So based on that information, we came up with our program, Dad, We're Incarcerated Too. And it just gives my daughters the opportunity to be able to express what they went through, their feelings, some issues we dealt with in terms of abandonment, rejection, lack of self-worth and all that based on my absence. And the more we talk about it, the more that we have discovered that there's still a lot that we need to dig through, to unearth so that, our relationship becomes more defined. Yeah. We get more closer. And I'm gonna tell you guys, man, it ain't easy sitting up here listening to this stuff, man. You know what I mean? But I had to, man up because I realized that my children had a lot of displaced anger, and they needed to talk about what they went through, and that's why we're opening up the doors, the floors, and opening up to you all to be able to share, just very candid, just very real, just conversation. We just having conversation.
Yeah.
And it's real and trill. So since our last podcast, we have our own radio show now. We just discovered today. We just had a very, very great meeting with another organization. And, man, we're just working hard to do some powerful things, again, to continue the legacy of my mother. We're going to open up the doors and the floors, let the floodgates come in, and we're going to have this conversation about forgiveness and what do you do about when the individual is gone.
One of the things that we were talking about on the radio show, as far as forgiveness, before something happens to a person, sometimes it's hard to really, think about forgiveness, when you have so much anger built up inside of you and you're not really sure what to do with that anger, and you're not really thinking about, well, what would I do if something happened to this person?
Right.
What you're thinking about is I'm angry at this person.
Right.
My father or my mother wasn't there all my life, and I do want to have a relationship, but I just, I'm filled with so many emotions. I don't know what to do with myself. But God forbid something happens, and you never get a chance to have that relationship or say what it is that you wanted to say. So I think that forgiveness is, you know what they say, the saying, forgiveness is for yourself. Because, honestly, it really is. When you start to forgive, it helps you to, heal and be able to develop relationships with people. It's hard to really develop relationships with people when, you have so many pent up emotions, Let
me segue into that. I'm going to ask you. So, but I'm angry. I'm mad, man. I'm mad as hell, man. I ain't trying to have this conversation with my parents, about this, that, and other type of thing. I'm mad, man. How do you get past that? How do you deal with, that part where the anger supersedes everything? It's how you move, it's how you breathe. And you don't even realize that you're operating out of that. How do you get to a place, where, that I even want to forgive?
Right.
How do you get there?
I think that initially, because the biggest part is realizing that you're where you at. Because a lot of times we don't realize it until we in it, and you be like, oh, nah. So this is what I'm doing, or this is what's going on. It's like the beginning part is just even realizing, and that come from wanting to work on yourself, period. Like maybe not just that specific situation, but actually deciding like, you know what, I need to be better. I would like to have better relationships with myself, with people. Maybe you have kids and you want to have a better relationship with them, because the truth is, like how my father said about the incarceration, it's mental, and that can trickle down to your kids, and then they start behaving in those ways as well, and that is not beneficial either. So I think that the beginning part, you have to acknowledge where you at, and with acknowledgement, it comes that's the hard part, when you have to sit there and with yourself and think about think about your actions, and then you got to forgive yourself too first. That's the beginning part, forgiving yourself. I know a lot of times we don't talk about that, but forgiving yourself is one of the biggest steps before you can forgive someone else, because you start feeling like some things is your fault, or a lot of times we take things personal. We take people's actions personal, or what they say, when really I'm responsible for my actions, they're responsible for theirs. And so you got to kind of break that barrier first. That's a difficult task.
Yeah, and you gotta want to
Yeah.
acknowledge it too. You know what I mean? You gotta want to have these realizations as well, because if you don't, you just not. And that's just what it's gonna be, you know?
And you, I would say you can't let people's actions define who you are or who you want to be. You know, I think you have to let go of whatever pain they caused you and just decide that you want to be a better person for you. And you don't want to hold on to anger and pain because it's not really working out in your everyday relationships. Like, you're not getting nowhere carrying all this baggage with you. So like y'all was saying, it is a decision to want better for you, and also a decision that you do want to reconnect with the people that you love. You don't want to hate them forever and then they gone and you sitting back thinking like, dang, I should have had that conversation. I could have let them know how I felt, because we never know how people are going to respond.
Right.
And however they respond, like you said, is not our responsibility. My responsibility was to let you know how I felt, so I can let go of all this pain that's been building up inside of me, and I can improve my life and have really meaningful relationships with other people from here on out.
Yeah, and you know, forgiving yourself, I think that that's harder than forgiving other people. You know, because you really start to think about, you know, like what does it mean to forgive myself? You know, and how am I going to feel, and you know, how do I go about this? You know what I mean? That's so, like, you know, having those questions for yourself. I mean, sometimes it's hard to really dive that deep and really, you know, think about those things. You know, because what do you want the forgiveness to look like? You know what I mean? That's another thing. What do you want your forgiveness to look like?
Wow.
How do you know that you will have forgiven? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think that's a major part in forgiveness, and I don't think that's talked about a lot either. You know, like what you want your forgiveness to look like. You know, how will you be able to tell? You know what I mean?
What it means for you.
Yeah.
Because everybody's definition on what they need to forgive is different. You can't just go based on what I'm saying. What it looked like for me is completely different than all of us.
Right.
Yeah.
And y'all sisters.
Yeah.
You know. But what did that, you know, so like, I think that's the hard part, right? And like, even realizing that I need to forgive. So, but you know, even though you explain you know, forgiveness is necessary, it's like, how do I move into that? Because I got, like, you know, this pent up anger, man. And it's like, you know, and the other part of that is, you know, since you've been gone, I've been fiending for myself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need you. Why you think I even need you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was all of us. We was like, we done got to a point where it's like,
Like, I'm grown now. I done made it here.
Right.
we used to it now, hell.
But you still be in survival mode, and you still
Right.
be searching for something.
Yeah.
And I think, that's where forgiveness comes in. So you can stop searching and really have an understanding of who you are and your worth. And you don't need other people who don't want to be in your life. You know, I don't want anybody to force relationships, because what's for you is for you. Who's meant to be in your life will be in your life. But if having those conversations with people is going to help you grow, then do it, because nobody likes to feel embarrassed or ashamed about anything. So I've always suggest start talking to yourself about how you feel. Why do you get so angry? Why do you get so sad? And then I always have moments where I be like, that was a little embarrassing, or I'm ashamed of how I moved and stuff like that. But I learned to forgive me and accept me every day. And if I could choose to be a better person each and every day, every second, if you want to, I can make up my mind, I ain't gonna do that no more.
Yeah.
Or I can make up my mind, I'm not holding it how I feel about this. This is how I feel, and it is what it is. You can take it how you want to take it. I don't mean no harm. This is with love and compassion, but this is how I feel. And this is how it affected me growing up. And now I have all these triggers, and I'm still learning how to deal with them, but that's the first step, knowing that I need to deal with these things. And also learning not to take everything personal, because you can't have a conversation with somebody who's always feeling attacked.
Yeah.
And you know what's key to that too, though, right? Is the person that's been incarcerated or that's still incarcerated, Because you can have a presence in the home but not be present.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? Being able to, lower your pride, you know what I mean? And put yourself in check so you can have active listening.
Yes.
Because, one of the things that we have, in our conversations, we already have a preconceived idea or notion about what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And so we already got the answer before
Yeah.
you even say it. You know what I'm talking about? And we don't even listen. It's not even,
Right.
that ain't active listening. You ain't really hearing me. You know what I mean? And then the other part of that, right, is that, we tend to interject ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like you and I could be having a conversation, right? You could be talking about you. And then all of a sudden, it flipped. And it become all about me, and so the reason why you came to the table was discarded, and put on the back burner. You know what I mean? And I'm making it all about me now, man. How we ease up into that though, man?
Right.
And so now that individual don't want. They ain't. Why you don't talk to me, man? Every time I talk to you, you make it about you.
Yes. You need to focus.
Yeah,
Because the conversation is about me and you.
Yeah.
It's my turn right now. That does not take away from how you feel or what you got to say. This is just what I got to say. And I'm going to sit here and listen to what you got to say because the end result needs to be that we come to a place of understanding and love and willingness to work on a better relationship.
But I'm deflecting.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to pay attention to that because, like, if I'm listening to you, right, and you telling me something about how you feel, then somehow, some way, I make that personal, like I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
You know what I mean? It's like, man, it's like, I'm listening, but now you got me self-examining, so I'm deflecting.
Yeah.
Because I ain't trying to see that part. Matter of fact, let's get back on you.
Right. That's why you need to understand who you are.
Yeah, and
Who
sometimes
are
you don't
you?
even want to believe it either, or you
Yeah.
don't believe it. You're like, I'm not like that. What you mean?
And then you go home and think, well, it was that one time I did do that.
And then you disregard it because you only see it one time. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Or you like create excuses for why, things happen the way they happen or whatever you said, or, you make excuses about, well, I'm, like some people would be like, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but, I blah, 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 and I've been through this and that makes me do this, so it's not, like it's like you get into this mode of like defense and you need to tell like
Why
your
you
whole
are-
life story, why you are the way that you are,
Right,
and
right.
why you responding the way that you're responding. But really, what that does is it takes away from the conversation because I don't need to know, all of that background information. I need to know what we're gonna do right now.
And that's me sometimes. I be like,
That's me too.
I be like, man, like I be on my thing, man. I be tripping, man. I be like, well, the reason why I said what I said,
Right.
you know what I mean? Because 14 years ago, I was
Yes.
bashed in
Oh
the
my
head, you know what I
God.
mean, and lost complete
Yes.
control. You know what I mean? So that's why, I responded the way I did.
Yeah.
But what that got to do with right
You
now?
losing
Right.
sight of the mission.
Right.
We got the tattoos that say only the present moment contains life.
And that,
I've
So
been trying to figure out what this thing is. I swear to goodness.
And I still ain't got mine.
only the present moment contains
Only the
life. And I
present
think
moment.
we have a hard time staying in the moment.
Yeah.
It's not about what we did in the past. Who are you trying to be now, and how can we help each other be the best versions of ourselves now? In this moment, it's okay to talk about how you felt back then, especially if it's still weighing on you. You need to let it out, but bring it back to the moment and what you're trying to build in that moment and moving forward.
the mission statement.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to always have mission statements when we're talking to somebody about how we feel.
Right.
Because it's easy to get defensive of yourself because you live in a world where it feels like you always have to be protective of you. And so it's like to get from that state to a space where you freeing yourself from incarceration.
Right.
But to get to a
Right,
space
right,
where you
right.
freeing yourself and you like, no, I know who I am. I got my flaws over here. I do this. I'm good at this, whatever. let me allow this person to give me what they're trying to give, or allow me to listen so that we can move forward from here. Because if this is how you feeling, and it's not even my intention to make you feel like this, or to have caused you those experiences or those moments that's now reflecting negatively in your life, then I'm cool with moving forward and figuring that out together as a team, but
It takes a lot to get there, for sure.
With both parties, it's a lot of patience, like that's
And responsibility for yourself.
One of the things we always talking about, like it take a lot of hard work, and but you yourself are important, and I feel like the relationship that you have with yourself is like the stepping stone for every other relationship, whether it's romantic or not. And so you need to put your best foot forward in that relationship, and do the hard work on purpose, intentionally, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
It is, man.
Yeah.
And if y'all hearing any baby sounds in the background, man, that's my grandbaby, man. She just turned 1 year old. That's Peyton. She want to be on the radio. You know what I mean? So she's interjecting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
She's saying her two-piece.
Right. But it's just such an interesting topic, because these are the things that we don't necessarily talk about. Like, we live life and just go on like every day, and we keep things bottled up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we suppress it. You know what I mean? And we be wondering, why am I drinking so much? Why I'm getting high. You know what I mean? And because, we can start out with alcohol and drugs on the recreational side, it's a little piece. But man, the moment that our body finds out, and our mind find out that we can use this to escape some realities, man, we out.
You be like, I'm finna go drink.
Right.
Work,
the first thing we say, man.
Right.
I don't
I
drink,
need a
thank
drink.
God, I'm 10 years clean.
Right.
But I'm just saying, man, during them time periods, when I was going through what I was going through, man, picking up that first one, it's like, man, I need me a drink, man.
Yeah, for real.
You know what I mean? And this is how we say that, I need me a drink.
Yeah, I need to get a drink.
You need to resolve your issues.
Huh?
I said you need to resolve your issues.
Right.
Right. But you ain't thinking about the resolve. You thinking about the escape.
Right.
What's the escape route? You know
Right.
what I mean?
And then it's interesting because alcohol is a depressant.
Yeah.
So it's like, really, it actually intensifies the emotions that you're feeling, and it brings you down.
About 'em.
Right.
I mean, you be talking about, man.
Just telling your whole life story, man.
Your whole life
Yes.
story, man. But you be telling it out of the drunk version.
Right, yeah. Right. But
Then you
see,
wake up like, why did I have to say all that?
right. But see, your drunk self is definitely telling us sober thoughts, but we got to figure out how to tell our thoughts, or how we can have the confidence, because when you're drinking, you get that confidence.
It's a fake confidence.
It's fake. It's a fake confidence, but you feel more confident to say what you want to say, and not care about. You don't care as much about what the other person is going to say,
anything.
right? You don't.
Not
You got to
even
get
what
your
you care
point
about.
out. You got to get your point out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we got to figure out like how to do that. Building these relationships. Getting that confidence, but that comes from within, and so none of this, I just want to let y'all know, none of this, it ain't gonna come easy, I know we keep saying that, but it's the truth. You're constantly working on yourself. You're constantly forgiving yourself, you're constantly having to love yourself.
Yeah.
Because you can have love for yourself, but to truly love yourself, that's a whole nother ball game right there, and it takes time, and then you're continuing to grow, and you're becoming different people as you grow, right? Well, maybe not necessarily different people, but you're like developing different.
Like it
yeah.
Who is this person?
Right. And so you have to continue to love what you're growing into.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then same thing with the relationship building. You have to continue to want to build those relationships and grow with that relationship, regardless of how it's getting built. You know what I mean? How it's getting built. I mean, so
I want to return back to something I think that is very valid, and that is, who do we talk to?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, because like we were talking about, sometimes people already have this prejudgment clause, that's already set up.
Yeah.
And, we have a need to be able to talk to someone that's going to be non-judgmental.
Yeah.
And then how do we talk to those parents? You know what I mean? How do children able to talk without being shut down?
Yeah.
Like, you need to be quiet,
Yeah.
or being told, to shut up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Are you too young to feel that way? Wait till you get older, then you'll see.
What a
Like,
real
what?
problem
Yeah.
is.
Right. You don't even know what stress is.
Right, and then by that time, I'm stressing because you didn't stress me all the way out.
Right.
Now I don't even know how to resolve my issues because I never got the chance to when I'm older. So it's just what causes more issues.
I think that's a generational curse. It's a generational thing because basically your parents' feelings wasn't invalidated too. What they needed wasn't invalidated. It wasn't enough too. So it gets passed down to you. And then we just keep on passing down. Everybody keep
Right.
getting invalidated, and it feels like nobody's feelings matter. And that really creates a lot of anger, feeling like you don't matter, like your opinion doesn't matter, even small or large. Kids don't have a say-so in divorce. They don't have a say-so if you go to jail. The judge don't care about what the child got to say. They did what they did. They going away.
Right.
Right.
They don't care how it really affects the dynamic of the family. And so I think that we lack structure, family structure. And we lack
Communication.
communication and really just taking the time to sit down with your children and hear them out, even from their everyday things, because they're little things to us, but they're big things in their world.
Yeah.
And we have to teach them at a young age that you matter. And whatever happened to your life does not affect who you are. It shouldn't determine how you live your life or anything. So we need to start instilling those type of values in our children at a young age so that they can grow up and not feel unworthy just because they had an absent father or feel like they need to stay in an abusive relationship because so-and-so did this or taught them this. We got to redirect.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No,
Yeah.
that's real and true, man. Especially when you're talking about being in an abusive, relationships. You know what I mean? Because mental abuse is a hard grind.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
You know what I'm
is.
talking about? And when your self-worth is not validated, we tend to find other things, in other people. So there has to be some sort of, because we go by learned behavior. Children
Yes.
are
Right.
sponges; they absorb whatever they say. It's not, we have a tendency, don't do what I do what I say.
Right.
You know what I mean? But they absorb, they become sponges, and they do exactly what it is that you do.
Exactly.
And then they become, in some senses, a worse version of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but when we cut our children off, like I'm so grateful because we're able to come to the table and have this type of conversation. But I had to be an active listener too, and I had to be persistent and consistent in my pursuit, of wanting to have that relationship. You know what I'm saying? And there's some things that you all had to do, but I was constantly working hard to break down you all's walls, so I can be in there. But if we don't take the step, you know what I mean, then nothing changes. And if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if we keep on doing the same thing, expecting different results, they call that the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So who's really insane?
Right.
If you repeating behavior that your parents passed on and you seeing it develop in your child, you seeing it developing in you, then you got to check that, man. Because, we look out at our society, we see all these mass killings. Children is killing, they may be young adults or teen, don't matter. But, they're still young. The school shootings.
Yeah.
We see, gang violence and guns, have become the rule of the world. With these youngsters, it's like they don't have a care for life.
Yeah.
They have no regard, for life. But where'd they get that from? You know what I mean? Where'd they get? And then, it's repeated behavior too, because when I was locked up, Now, I was locked up with cats, man, who was the grandfather, their son was in there, and the grandson was in there. And their uncle was in another penitentiary, you know what I mean? Their cousin. So it becomes generational. You know, like, man, you know, my father was locked up, I was locked up, my sister, my brother, my cousins. You know, we all, you know, we had that part. You know what I'm saying? And you know, at some stage of the game, you know, I wanted to be able to break the generational piece of incarceration upon my life. Because I don't want it showing up in my children, right? And I know that, you know, one of my children, we can be very candid. I don't know, have all y'all had experienced some jail time? Okay, you ain't never been to jail, huh? At all.
Right.
Wow. That's beautiful, Raquel.
I know, right?
What about you, Lily? You had one day in there, didn't you? That was, day was too many, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I went there twice, I guess.
Twice?
Yeah. This
Wow.
last
Oh,
year.
yeah.
Or the year before, one of those.
Yeah. What you look like that for?
I don't know. Because I'm the one you talking about.
How many times have you been to jail? Yeah, right. But
that was generational.
and the choices that you made,
And
to
it was
be
my
with-
choices.
But I'm talking about the choices of the person that you chose to be with. That was
The influence they had on me.
How
Yeah.
about that part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
It wasn't, and it wasn't just the people that I was with. It was me too.
Yeah.
And then you know that drinking, carrying all that anger and that pain, and then you going out and drinking, it don't lead to nowhere fun. And so I really had to start checking myself. Like, is this the life that I want to live? It's not working. I mean, I'm affected. My family is affected. My whole life is affected. And so I made a decision. I don't want to live this life no more. And I don't have the excuse just because my father was in prison that I get to go out here and act a fool too.
Wow.
You know, it really is all about choices. Choosing that you want better for yourself. And choosing not to carry so much anger is hard. It's really hard. And then, you know, carrying all that come with anxiety. I used to have bad anxiety attacks and all type of stuff. So it was like I really had to do a reality check within me and figure out what is going on and what is all this stimulating from. And I started to realize a lot had to do with my childhood trauma and a lot of questions that I had that weren't answered. You know, the frustration and confusion on why you weren't there, and was it me? Was we the reason that you didn't want to, you know, be around even when you weren't incarcerated? So it was like I had to really understand that from you, and you helped me get past that understanding that it wasn't me, that your actions did not deflect the kind of love that you had for me.
Yeah.
It was just your actions, and you got caught up in your own world. And we need to understand that too, to stop taking everything so personal, because parents have their own stuff going on too that we have no idea about, even their childhood. And that's why I think it's important for parents to sit down and give them some stories about your life, about what you've been through. Let them see the real you, the true you, so that they can learn to be true to themselves and make better decisions than what you did.
Yeah, and it'll help them understand who the heck you are.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, so this is why you act that way, because you've been through da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you talk about how you overcame that. Now your child has the wisdom that you just gave them on how to overcome a difficult situation. You know what I mean?
And they get to see it. too.
Yeah, they get to see the aftermath.
Wow, you came out of that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I heard these two acronyms. It was love, life. And life was love in full effect. And love was loving on valued energy.
Wow.
And yeah, I thought that was cool too. But
Yeah, it was.
so I think that, you know, with grandma passing and stuff, it's very important that we give our energy to things that are going to help us grow. And learning how to just, everything is all about love. That's all we really, really want at the end of the day, is to feel loved and to be able to give love. But you have to be able to put yourself in a place where you can receive it.
Yeah.
And know when it's being given to you correctly.
Yes.
Knowing what you deserve, what you worth, and and being able to stand up for yourself and say, I'm not going to deal with that no more because it's not serving me.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to deal with this so that I can better serve me.
Yeah.
And learning the difference is hard.
Yeah.
And it hurts. But we can't avoid it because that's the only way to grow.
Yeah. And I want to piggyback off of something you said, that you said you couldn't continue to have dad be the reason why you was acting crazy. And that goes for a lot of people. I think a lot of people, they're so angry with their, absent person that they have allowed that to enable them to act in certain ways. Well, I'm acting like this because my dad wasn't here and I didn't feel loved, and that's just what it is, right? And I used to use that as an excuse as well for the reasons why I couldn't make no progress in becoming the person that I wanted to be. I always used to say, well, I mean, my dad wasn't here and I had all these things going on, and, because he wasn't here, I'm this way and I'm that way, so that's why I can't get here and that's why I can't. But, then I had to sit and have a conversation with me like, it's not on him. At this point, it's on you. You know what I mean? Yes, you've gone through those things, but you don't have to let those things become who you are. I still had a choice in that. And that's what I had to realize. I still had a choice. So like what Jamila said, yes, it's all about choices. You constantly making decisions every day. A lot of those decisions are mental. Deciding that you want to be in a better mental space, a better emotional space, and deciding what that looks like. And I think sometimes, like myself, I would be fearful of that because I didn't know what that looked like. You know what I mean? And I was so comfortable in being where I was at. And I'm always like thinking about how other people are going to feel. You know what I mean? Instead of taking into consideration my feelings. But it doesn't do you any good to do that. You know what I mean? You really got to consider yourself and consider, how you want to be in this world. Do you want to be the person that is always having excuses? That's what my sisters told me the other day. It was like, you gotta just figure out who you want to be. You want to grow up and be the person that's always having the excuses for why you can't do this or why you can't be that or talk to this person. And I really had to sit there and think about that. Like, no, I don't want that to be me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think a lot of us live in that, on a day-to-day type of thing. And
That's interesting. That you all, talk about that. And we just have a real conversation. This is how my daughters now, this is how we talk, man. Just keeping it all the way 1,000 with you. You know what I mean? So part of that dynamic is, learning how to, shout out to all those individuals that overcame adversity, whether you had a parent or didn't have a parent.
For sure.
You know what I mean? You made it, to a certain degree, to a certain level in your life. It exceeded all expectations.
Right.
You know what I mean? Through all the scenarios and situations that you've been through or that life dealt you. However, though, I do want to say, sometime when we go to those heights and those levels, right, we tend to bury all that stuff. But we utilize it as fuel. You know what I mean? To energize us to get to that next level. And a lot of people don't use it or don't see it as a handicap, but motivation.
Right.
Shout out to those individuals that look at life on that level. But I want to say, too, that there is the possibility, I'm not saying that it's true for all, but it may be true for some, that there's still some unresolved
I
in
was
you.
just going to say that.
You know
You
what
get
I mean?
there and then what? You still
Yeah.
got all the issues.
Because we see a lot of people that make it, you know what I mean, and use that as fuel, but when they get there and they arrive, man, they got issues of anger. They got issues, with resentment, and their attitude and their behavior is but so it's like, you wearing a mask. You know what I mean? You wearing that protective layer. You know what I mean? So you're not penetrated so you can get to where you got to go. Shout out that you goal-oriented, you know what I mean? And you propel beyond, what those expectations of you, because a lot of people don't do that. You know, a lot of people resort to the street. A lot of people resort to gangs. You know, kids and whatnot. But if you made it there, man, I would go as far as still checking yourself, because sometimes we wind up in therapy. You know what I mean? Because of the unresolved. You know what I mean? And sometimes we pass that stuff down and not knowing that we're passing it down. You know what I mean? How to be hard, you know, like coming up in the hood, right? Like, you know, as a boy, man, you don't get a chance to be human. You know what I mean? You got to wear this type of exterior. You know what I mean? It's like, get the tears out your eyes. You know, man up. You know what I mean? Get out there and fight. I don't want you to come back in this house crying. I'll beat your butt. You know what I mean? Come back in here with some tears in your eyes. You know what I mean? And my mother was good for that. She was like, listen, it's for y'all. You know what I mean? Don't you come back in here running back in this house. You know what I mean? Y'all stay up in there, and we never ran back. You know what I mean? Yeah, we never. Because it was worse getting the beat down from your mama than getting one in the street. You hear me? Because my mother didn't whoop with you know, we got ironing cords. You know, I still got webs on my body, man. Shoot, I got a mark, man. You know, I still got that, man. Woo! You caught me coming out the tub one time.
Oh my God!
So like lightning was hitting me, brother, man. I'm running through the hallway, butt naked. My brother and them in there laughing and crying and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Man, that dude crazy, man. I said, man, you gotta be kidding me. You know what I mean? But you know what I'm talking about? But I'm just saying though, man, you know, it's like it don't matter how far you came up the ladder. It don't matter how far you might feel that you on the ladder. You might feel like you at the lowest. You might feel like you on the top. The reality of it is, man, we all got some stuff. You know, and we all got some issues. We all got some stuff that we got to face and we got to deal with.
Yep.
My mother used to always say, man, once again, shout out to her, that you got to face it to fix it. And we spend too much time running.
Yes.
Running from it. And we teach our children how to run from it. We don't teach them how to resolve it. We don't teach them, you know, like how to have a relationship. How a man's supposed to treat his woman. That's based on how I treat your mama. You're the woman. That's based on how your mother was treating me. And if it's not, then how am I supposed to know?
Exactly. We dang sure didn't know.
Right. You just get out here.
You're right. You get out here and get on
Just like,
some.
well,
Yeah, that was one of the things that I think I felt most angriest about, because I felt like had I had a father in my life, I probably wouldn't have ended up in an abusive relationship. That's what I felt like. I probably, you know, would have known what to look for in a guy. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't have settled the way that I did, and I would have had the confidence and you know, felt deserving and loving and all that kind of stuff. But when I got out of that relationship, it was like, well, now you know what you don't want, so that's good. Now you know what not to get into. You know what I mean? Right. So at some point, it's like, yes, these things happened to me. You know, yes, my dad wasn't in my life, you know, but what do I do, you know, moving forward? You know what I mean? Like, because I can't use that as a keep handicapping me.
Right, because if you never get that resolved, who do you want to be still?
Right. It's like, and then what does that do for me to be stuck in that? Nothing. That goes back to that forgiveness. I had to forgive myself for having those thoughts. Now, granted, it ain't like the thoughts are wrong or anything, but I feel like I could have, what do you call that? Redirected my thoughts, really, you know, and not use them as a crutch type of thing. You know what I mean? But that's just stuff that you learn as you get older. You know what I mean? And you experience more things. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, we're going to be running out of time here shortly. So one of the things I want to talk about, though, and I think all those points are valid, right? But how does someone begin to have this relationship?
Right.
How do they begin to have these conversations? That's what's important.
Yes.
I think. Oh no, you can go ahead.
I'm not really sure. I was just gonna say, I think I would say putting yourself in the receiving mode, which means, I guess,
Doing what?
putting yourself in the receiving mode.
Okay.
And so,
What does that mean?
you know, the receiving mode. If someone is willing to give you the answers you're looking for and the love that you want, you have to put yourself in a place to allow it and not keep blocking it off. You know how we did you for a couple of years. I had to decide that but I had to decide, like, okay, I do want him in my life. There are things that I want to learn from him. There is a relationship that I want to have from him. So I have to decide to stop blocking him out and maybe sit there and have that 2-minute conversation, because those 2-minute conversations turns into 10, turns into a whole day. Now we spending every day together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I guess, just putting yourself in the place where you know what you want out of your relationships in your life. And you have to be willing to put in the work too, because some people not going to try forever. And everybody don't like constantly getting turned away. Mm-hmm. But as parents, you got to stay with it. You got to stay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm still working on that too, so I don't really know how you start those conversations sometimes.
Right. I remember you used to call us and we'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to answer and all that. I mean,
he
that's
got some
just
money.
But that's how I feel. Yeah, till you need some money. But that's how I still feel when you don't answer your phone. I got to call you back 5 times. Raquel. I be like, are you kidding me? My butt can be on fire, and I can't even get one of y'all to spit on me. Because y'all don't answer the phone when I be
I
talking.
answer your phone calls.
3 hours later, I get a call.
No, that's not
Whatever,
true.
man.
I be answering.
But at least you answering.
Right, but the point is, though, it's like...
Not the point is.
You gotta... to start... I mean, everybody's gonna start differently. You know what I mean? We decided after a while we want to give you a chance. Maybe some people are ready in that moment when the person comes that they want to give them a chance. Maybe, it's going to take a lot of more work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it really just depends on where both people are in their lives, in that moment when they're trying to come together,
Just to piggy off that real quick, I'm going to let you go. I was going to say, you should ask. You should ask the person, whoever you want to have the conversation with, hey, you think we could talk about this one day or something? We don't got to do it right now in this moment, but it's been heavy on my heart and on my mind, and I would like to be able to have this conversation with you so that we can move to a better place.
And I think that the parent or whoever that individual is, you have to be able to have active listening. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to sit, no matter how it come out. You know what I mean? That's the hard part. Mm-hmm. Especially if they're older now. Mm-hmm. They may say a few choice words.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I got that. I mean, I got some choice words. You know what I'm saying? But but because I recognized today that it was pain that was speaking, hurt and frustration. I had to, sit back and take it. And even these conversations that we be having nowadays too, it be uncomfortable sometimes. You know what I mean? Because, sometimes it's like a reflection on, like, my irresponsibility. Mm-hmm. And so, so it's about parents, so if you want to be able to do something, number one, to all the mothers and fathers who may be the caretakers of those children, you got to remember, it's not about you. Mm-hmm. It's about the child, because children have feelings too, and it don't matter how old you are. Mm-hmm. You could be a grown woman or grown man, and and you still have this lack. You want to have it, man. We need to holler, man. Forget about all that. Being hard and all that, man, because, being hard and all that, man, it don't profit nothing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you can't build wholesome relationships, even with yourself. Because the hardest part for me was to learn how to love myself. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to love y'all. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I didn't have no love for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to love you out of what I don't possess for me. Yeah. But the more I began to possess that for me, the more I began to know how to love you, how to treat you. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, parents, you got to be open, you know what I mean, and willing, and not shut your children down, because children's feelings matter, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's very important, so that, you know, our objective is to be able to spread love, you know, and wholesome relationships. You know what I'm saying? Where there's healing, you know, and reconciliation.
Yeah.
You know, I think that that's important. And then if an individual is just coming home, you know, for the first time, I know what that anxiety feels like when you want to get into your children's lives and they're not really there. But I'm going to tell you, man, you know, a woman, you got to stay consistent. You got to stay persistent. Even when they don't want you, send them some flowers, send them a card, send them a couple dollars. Whatever it is, man, just be consistent and be stable. You know, because the biggest thing that's on their mind right now is that, you know, as soon as something go down, you out again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gone. So if you don't have no stability, you know they can't count on you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For real, man. So, you know, we just wanted to make sure that you all understood where we coming from, Dad. We're Incarcerated Too. Y'all can find us at dadwit.org. You know what I mean? dadwit.org, man. You know, some more of this conversation is coming up soon. But for right now, you know, this is Daryl,
Oh, Raquel.
Jamila.
Aaliyah.
the Rogers clan, and Lil Peyton. Y'all heard her in the background making her noise. Doing what she do. You know what I mean? She getting ready to get on this microphone. You heard? You know what I mean? Hey, but much love to you all, man. You know, peace and blessings to you all, man. Remember, one life,